Morning Cancer, I'm Philippa. This is welcome to the channel. Look at that sky turning pink. This is going to be a wonderful dawn. This reading is also going to be for Fox people because as I was sitting here meditating and setting up, your internal world has already come out, Two of Cups. A fox had obviously been just sitting off to this direction behind me and came scuttling out of the undergrowth and dashed down and off across the field. So that's curious. So the symbols have started to repeat. We've had feather twice now, and fox has come up the second time. Let's see. So we've got your internal world, and how that makes you act is with strength in the outside world. And the basis of the reading, I wonder whether you can see this. The basis of the reading, we have a card for the basis of the reading for Cancer and Fox people, this timeless reading. We've got the Eight of Coins, of Pentacles, the Eight of Wands, and then they were together, and then the Knight of Pentacles. So there's the Knight of Pentacles, and there's those two eights. And it's curious because I was fiddling with the cards before, considering doing a different type of reading. I'm just going to turn that around for a minute so you can see. Wow. Here it comes. And I decided not to. I might try that tomorrow or something. But what happened was that two tens came out in a clump, and then a separate one. So something about twinning numbers, double numbers. Are you seeing double numbers? Got to give you a bit of a view of this. Something from the recent past, please. Something from the recent past. Something from the recent past. There's one of our tens. Ten of Pentacles. That's the one that came up. How interesting. What was it with? Can't remember. And a potential outcome, please. Make sure the mic's okay. I'm going to probably do my hair up in a minute. Forgot to do that. Knight of Cups. Lovely. And something that's coming up in the near future for you guys. We've got the Ace of Wands. Lovely. And something about your attitude, please. The King of Cups. And your environment. Your environment. The Knight of Wands with, hidden beneath him, the Nine of Cups. And your hopes and fears. Your hopes and fears. I don't know where you're watching from, but gosh, the seasons have suddenly started to change here in Italy. I'm headed back to England in 2 days' time, but we're sort of travelling before that. It's really, I find it sad when the sun has gone. I don't know. Anyway, so this is your hopes and fears. The Two of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords. It's interesting. Why is she turning up there? There's a fear. And a card for an outcome. Card for an outcome, please. Outcome card. Lovely. The Fool. Lovely. Off you set on a new journey. So we have one major, so it's quite low. Oh no, two majors. So this is about day-to-day life for you, and it's something to do with work and messages and being consistent with those. So I don't know whether you work in social media somehow. Maybe you have a channel like this, working on a message that you need to put out consistently, I feel, because he's there with the messages on his own. I'm just going to dive in because I'm new to this, relatively new to this, and I've been making these incredibly long videos, and I only uploaded the first one yesterday, but you'll be seeing this sometime after that. And I don't know how long people can tolerate me talking. I find it difficult to keep it going, but here we go. This one is on a stage, so that always means a sense of self-reflection. And I was sort of looking at this yesterday, the kind of lovely leopard print. It's so modern. So today, the way it's turning up to me is like a modern part of yourself meeting a very classical part of yourself, almost like a kind of classical goddess, like Artemis, or Artemis is the one that's coming to my mind. Maybe because she always had dogs with her and she was a huntress, and she's meeting this leopard print part of yourself. So are you considering something kind of ancient and mythic about your nature? The kind of roots of your being, meeting and getting into partnership with the kind of the now version. That, I don't know, there's something about the animal print, the kind of instinctive modern version of you. How interesting. And because the caduceus is there, it means healing, and they're offering a grail cup of love to one another. Let me see what I can see. I don't know where the red glasses are. I have these amazing red glasses that really, really are too strong for me, but they help me see funny details. So we've got, I'm just staring at, without even knowing what I was looking at for a second, this little house in between them. I was just staring at it. On that little hill. A place for these two characters to meet. A safe house for them. A safe house. So something about you is creating internally, is very aware that you need to create a safe house for some sort of mythic part of your nature to be brought into the present. Wow. That's a strange idea coming through there. I wasn't expecting that. I'm just going to put the hair up because it makes it easier for me to concentrate somehow. It's what I'm used to. It's going to be a bit of a mess. See if I can use the screen. How lovely. And you're aware of it. You're watching this happen in yourself because it's on a stage. And the way this makes you act in the outside world is with the major 8. So we have another 8 coming. We have the 8 of worry and self-victimization coming up. But here we have the beautiful 8 of the strength. That's how you're acting in the outside world. And so that's interesting because I was saying, you know, this is like Artemis and a sort of mythic version and a modern version, but it has a kind of animalistic nature or kind of something about your instincts, a tone of that. And here we have you in that same robe, kind of lovingly wrestling with that lion to tame its impulses. So some deep wisdom from within you. I almost really, to be honest, want to say something in you that is guided by an ancestral figure or a spirit guide is being cajoled and brought along for the ride. How interesting. And it's an amazing part of you. So we have the infinity symbol above her head. The lion's tongue is sticking out today, I can see, and his tail is between his legs. He's utterly cowed in a way, but she's being very gentle, although she does have her hands all over his nose. I wish I had the big red glasses, so they make everything. Oh, and then that's interesting. One of her hands is the naturalistic colour, of her body, and the other that she holds under his tongue that's lolling out is red. Do you see that? As if that as an acknowledgement that this is part of her. That's what I'm seeing today. This is part of her own being. So it's you in this incredible communion with your unconscious drives, your wild nature. It's very freeing. It's amazing. What else am I seeing here? Similar background to this, with the little hill and the same greens. So we're in the same territory, but in your outside world there's a mountain. There's some sort of challenge, a mountainous aspect to this action that you're taking here. How interesting. Right. In the basis of the reading, so these two sevens. Eights. That's strange. Sevens, eights. Why am I going backwards and forwards? And I know the cards really well. I was distracted because, of course, I said we just had 1 8 coming up, but we've actually got, that means we've got in total, including the major 8 of the strength card, we've actually got 4 8s on the table. And we're in an 8th year, we're in a strength year. And I've heard people, numerologists, say that in an 8th year, one has to have strength. That's why we're given it. So, but these two 8s that we have here are the lovely 8s in the basis of the situation. So what is she wrestling out? I want to say, well, like, you might be in social media, you might be posting regularly, and you might need to be consistent about it. But let's give it a slightly, I hadn't read those two interior and exterior cards at that stage. Let's give it a little bit of a mythic finesse, because I think that's what's going on here, which is that actually you're working on the kind of messages that you give yourself. Okay, let's think about that. If you're offering your Grail cup internally between these two parts of yourself, you're trying to make peace, and well, not even trying to make peace. The implication is it's a very happy union, okay, between these two parts. Let's just check I'm not mucking this up. And then, again, this kind of loving wrestle in the way that you're dealing with. Now, you might be inquiring through psychotherapy, or doing some deep spiritual dive, or journaling, or sound healing, or somatic work, you know, the endless possibilities of trying to find out what's deep within us that is driving us, okay? So, at the basis of the reading, working on messages, okay? Working on messages, and then the Knight of Pentacles indicating consistency, care, stability. So I think you're wanting to keep that channel of communication completely open, and you want to really perfect the way that those two parts of each other work together, like a kind of alchemical spell almost. You're saying, I need to give good messages to myself, steady, consistent messages to myself, and they need to all be going in the same direction, and I need to make sure that they are supportive, like the Knight of Pentacles, and steady, even though the Eight of Swords is very fast. It's interesting. What am I seeing here? Completely absorbed into his work, the Eight of Pentacles. What's that at the top? There's like a tiny little bit of green on top above that pentacle there. Teeny tiny little shoots of new life. But he's completely absorbed, and he looks very happy and a bit younger than normal. So it might indicate a younger part of yourself. I'm always interested in that white, a younger impulse in yourself. I'm interested in that white sash that reminds us of the magician who's not here. And also the ties on his apron, indicating he could take this off and get up and get into that village. This is a stage card. Wow. I've only just realised that's a stage card. This is so exciting. There's two little lines right at the back. So the stage cards appear in all of the minor arcana, except for the twos, I think. Oh, sorry, the aces. Yeah. And I hadn't realised that this was a stage card because the bench obscures most of the double lines. And stage indicates something that we're all, well, I can't find a good explanation. Sometimes some of the explanation that I see are good, but they don't work in all cases. So some people will say that the sense of being on a stage indicates that you think you're working hard, for instance, but actually you're kidding yourself. I don't like that. It doesn't work for me, that one. And Pamela Coleman Smith was a stage designer as well as an illustrator. She's the person who illustrated these, and kind of mystic and a writer as well. But she was a set designer. So I'm trying to think, what would a set designer see a set as? A part of, so the set sets the scene, setting the scene for the audience, tells them what to concentrate on in the scene. That's interesting. So maybe it's saying we're setting the scene for you. That's a different reading of it that's just coming out. I'm going to go with that at the moment, is that you need to work perfect on this. Perfect, we've got the workbench there, almost obscuring the fact that it's a scene, indicating that when you're in that work, you should be so in it that you shouldn't have any other thoughts that separate you from the process somehow. That makes sense? It's a little horsefly sitting on top of my camera, having a look at me. Don't come for me, horsefly, please don't. So, what else am I seeing? Again, this little house that's like the one. It's very similar. There you are in your internal world, finding a place. And this is a scene. Of course, this is a scene card because it's got those double. So it's you setting the scene, concentrating, like focusing your efforts on this union between parts of yourself. There's that little house, okay? And here it is again, underneath. So messages that pertain to that little house. Swift action about how to create this safe space between these two parts of yourself. A house, a housing, a kind of space for this new endeavour where something very mythic and old communicates with something very modern. So creating a space for that, and lots of messages about it. So you could be a writer. This indicates writing for me, or for lots of people. Certainly communication, okay, communication. Well-honed, loving communication between these two parts that's very steady. He's our steady Eddie. Even though actually I rather love his steady, non-moving horse, because everyone goes on about how the horse doesn't move, right? But he's got like oak leaves on his forelock, and he's got rather a beautiful kind of red brocade around him. And he's giving us a little sideways wink. He's so cool. And I love the Knight of Pentacles. He's so nurturing. I mean, I'm interested that this part isn't coloured in just by Pamela Coleman Smith's signature. Why is that not coloured in? These ploughed fields, this tended to, cared for, nurtured endeavour. And he's patient, the Knight of Pentacles. He doesn't rush anyone. He lets the process unfold naturally, and he's very nurturing to it. But part of the scene hasn't quite been fleshed out, if you know what I mean. Something like that. Interesting. And in the recent past, you've been thinking about kind of setting up something that really sustains you in a kind of generational wealth type way. I mean, maybe you have literally been working on your financial security, or maybe there has been an inheritance. What's jumping out to me? You've been investing in something very sustaining that involves all of the parts of you. I can see the balance symbol. I can see a tower, interestingly, right in the middle of the card, behind and up from the white hair. So that's very interesting, like a kind of a lookout tower. It's not the tower like the tower. It's almost part of the rock with one little window. So is it sort of somewhere where you've been getting a bird's eye view, or you've been looking for potential problems, or because that's what one does with the lookout tower. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6 windows in the tower that is behind the younger couple in this. Oh, we don't know whether. I think one's meant to be a man and one's a woman. Now those 6 windows in the tower, the idea of the tower, with the 2 at the top, that's really jumping out to me, because it's like your predominant view will be from those 2 that are offering their Grail cup, from those 2 ancient, mythic and modern parts of yourself working in cooperation. They are the ones that have the furthest sight, and they're aligned to each other because those 2 little windows are right next to each other, kind of like a cosy little pair. You can imagine those 2 characters leaning out, you know, Artemis and leopard skin bloke. Hi, how you doing? And then looking out over the horizon. I'm thinking of that because today we're going somewhere where there is an amazing tower, medieval tower, that I will be up later, I'm hoping. It's so beautiful. I hope the weather stays. Yeah, so working on those 2 parts of yourself, thinking about how to establish something really sustaining for generations. It's very giving, inclusive, rich, sustaining energy. That's what you've been working on. I love the 2 dogs in the front. And this one's looking really funny here. He looks really comedy. One looks all standing to attention. The other's ears are slightly cocked. And he's waiting for a treat or something from this white-haired guy. And the child trying to pull the tail. And it's quite a sort of busy, crammed full of characters scene. And actually that's interesting. I wonder whether that ever happens. It's so busy that her signature is right up here next to the 10. I don't think that does happen anywhere else. And that's interesting as well. Oh God, I love these cards. It's a scene again, but it's above. The double line is above. Because none of these other cards have a double line in their border. I hope that's amazing. I had never seen that. So it's, and if you turn it upside down, I'm doing that just because the scene marker and her signature are usually at the bottom. What do you see? Oh, I feel quite vertiginous with these new glasses. The arch, this arch of it's almost like a smile, like she's winking and going, well done, you noticed. So this is a scene too, so you're being asked to really, in the past you've been really focusing on and setting the scene and watching yourself, trying to keep all of those parts balanced, but the signature being at the top, like your signature being really top and centre, and things being a little bit topsy-turvy, like you're not normally such an attention grabber, but now, you know, top right, it's a very sort of, it's the it's a part that our eyes go to. So you're starting to put your mark on the world. Amazing. Where it's leading, another Grail Cup being offered by the Knight of Cups. An offering that you've got from these two people. I feel like they've done all their job together. They've started this communication. They've got their little hut that they're sitting in. I'm off now. I can feel the metaphor. That they're in the little place where they can hatch their plans and send out their messages and be consistent with each other and communicate well with each other. But they're creating something now, and they've sent this knight with their offering. Beautiful horse again. So three nights, three parts of you making action into the world, and he's got sort of Hermes wings on the back of his helmet, but also the back of his feet. So there's a sense of more messages, more love messages coming from this union within you. But now they're going out into the world. I think this is an offering. It's a new version of you, and you want to spread the word. And the beautiful blue eye of the horse, and its red nostril. She's so pretty, this horse. Lots of water on her reins, watery sort of emotional feelings, and fish on his. I'm just seeing what my other glasses do to this. I haven't got the red glasses, I've got the pink glasses. Not that you know about my glasses, but my eyes don't work in the way that other people's do, so I have to use different. Nothing that interesting, just that one of them doesn't talk to the brain, and astigmatism. Yeah, that's slightly kind of less shouty. Yeah, so messages and fish on his tunic and water everywhere. So a deeply emotional, loving message that you're bringing you've sent out from this pair. And it's headed towards a little rocky outcrop with a tower, a bit like that tower. But this is red, but you're headed into some sort of natural tall structure. The river and all the trees in the background. So across slightly barren ground, but with such a loving message. And then in the near future, again, another one of these towery crops of rocks which feel like people are in. We have the Ace of Wands. Amazing. A divine new start, like a real rocket of energy that's going to be coming from you. And it feels very, very potent. But I'm interested, it's such a sort of, because the red is so jumping out, and obviously she would have thought about that, but the background is very sort of calm in comparison to this rocket of energy that's being unleashed from you, or your new start. It's like you come into a very still place. There is this rocky, you're headed for something. It's like we've got it in the 10, we've got it turning up here. There's some sort of aspiration indicated, or challenge indicated by that. This is you really working out how to get there. But yeah, as I say, the background's very calm and kind of muted in comparison to this red stick of passion. The yods in this case are the leaves, so sort of natural blessings coming down on you. And the river, the same river that we see here and here. So in the 8 of Wands and the Knight of Cups, all of them have rivers at the bottom. So, and there in the Ace of Wands and there in the 8 of Wands. So a sense of some moving, feminine it's like blood rivers, aren't they? Sort of some sustaining emotional force that's coming probably from those peaks that we see there, and flowing beautifully. So flowing emotions, that's what it makes me think of. Things flowing happily and making their way harmoniously where they need to go, coming all from this union within you. And then in your attitude, we have the King of Cups, who's not in a flowing river. He's on a seething sea on a little stone platform. And one of those fishes that we see in red on the Knight of Cups' tunic is now leaping in the background, an emotion that needs to be attended to. But they change and leap and change and leap. And the poor King of Cups might feel one way one day and the next. But he is a king, he is in charge. He's dipping his toe into the water. He's got his little fishy feet. So you're feeling a little bit at sea. This is new territory for you. This is taking you somewhere new, and maybe a bit in that hobbity way, you're going off to see that mountain and you don't want to. It's bringing up a lot of emotion, and of course it will. If you speak to deep parts of yourself, it will keep uncovering potentially buried emotions and things that you need to deal with. And so it's kind of, there's a work element involved in this. That's why we've got the need of this lovely Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles, because he keeps things steady under these circumstances. And in your environment, we've got another Knight and another 9. Oh no, we've got all the 8s, not the 9s. We've got our 9. We've only got one 9. So the 9 of Cups and the Knight of Wands. And so the Knight of Wands is our really fast, furious, in and out, non-committal energy. And the 9 of Cups has an energy of that, really. He's the bon vivant. It's a wish-fulfilled cup, a card. So it does indicate something really, really lovely. And certainly both of these indicate quite a lot of kind of passion and drive coming from you. So that's your environment. It doesn't feel like that little house which houses your two parts, but maybe it is. Maybe that's what it feels like in this new interior space. It might feel as if it's really woken up your libido in your Knight of Wands, because there are those 3 peaks in the background that we keep seeing, and also a sense of deep contentment and happiness and almost intoxication. So I want to say this is in the new little house. That's the kind of, maybe you get into that little house and it's kind of full of crazy decor. I remember going to a house once, an artist's house once, for lunch, and it was a very sort of twee-looking little cottage, and you got inside and it had crazy mobiles and floors painted a million different colours and stripes, and it was surprising. I'm going to go with that because it's coming out of nowhere. I've never even thought of that. So I feel like that's what the interior of your little cosy looking cottage is like. I mean, kind of would house all these different elements. I need to clean the screen. No, it's just very muted light today, isn't it? Yeah, so anyway, your house full of this. So people might not know from the outside because it looks quite sort of harmonious and quiet and everything, but there's quite a lot going on inside your home. Now that could be literally. You could also literally have these kind of characters around you. Sort of, there might be quite a lot of fun and quite a lot of charging around at the moment. Maybe your inquiries or your life at the moment means you have to be dashing around a lot, and there's a sort of lot of parties coming up. And then in your hopes and fears, another stage card, and this is the 2 of Pentacles, and he is with the 8 of Swords. So they're strange hopes and fears. well, I mean, she's obviously a fear, but what we would say if you were hoping, you would be hoping to just grab one of these swords, wrestle, sort of almost just wiggle yourself out of the ribbons, because they're just ribbons of these self-defeating thoughts, and you would then get back into that too, that communication, that busy communication between the two parts of yourself, juggling these two realities, these two emotional, I mean, maybe they're two guides. Maybe you've got a guide from the future. Wow, that would be weird. I've never thought of that. Yeah, do you get spirit guides from the future? So maybe you've got like a kind of ancient ancestral guide, or you're working with a goddess energy, and then there's something futuristic, or an animal spirit or something. But I like the idea of a guide from the future, asking for a spirit guide from the future. I mean, I've heard that concept of sort of talking to parts of yourself that are in the future and asking for their advice. Interestingly, here we see up close those kind of funny rocky outcrops that we've been looking at in the background of strength, a little bit even of the Knight of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands. Where was the Knight of Cups? I feel like that's very like the Knight of Cups one. And the Ace of Wands. It's most like the Ace of Wands. Okay, so see that there and see that there behind her. They're very similar, aren't they? And you've been trying to get to these rocky outcrops because they've got some kind of incredible cave structure or sort of building within it. So sort of suggesting to me a kind of harmony between natural and human. Not that we're not natural, but you know what I mean, using the natural world as a dwelling, but also getting up high. So she's right at the base of it now, and at the very last minute, I want to say, she suddenly faltered and got frightened. You've got all the way there. I think this is important. The birds are sort of squawking. Yeah, this is important. You've got all the way there. Don't give up at the last minute. Don't be self-defeating. I think that's really important. And I think you know that. I think you know that you've got the tendency to do that, and you need to. So your hope is that you deeply wish that you do not give in at the last minute, and don't become defeated and let all of those swords just stick in that red land. That's a bit like the Knight of Wands land. It's kind of arid, but also look, she's got a sort of pathetic puddle of water now. It's like the river under these circumstances becomes like a sort of dribbly stream. It's not working well. It's not taking you where you need to go. And so your hopes and fears are that you do not give up at the last minute. You've got to get up and see what's in that tower. You've been headed there all along. That's what this pair want you to get to, okay? So, and the way that you think you're going to do that is by keeping this communication going, juggling these two parts of yourself, setting the scene, supporting, maybe setting the scene supports the action, okay? So, supporting the action of generational wealth and viewing it from the top down, coming from a very high vantage point, supporting, setting the scene, and therefore supporting the communication between your ancient side and your futuristic guide. I don't know what those are yet. Where was the last scene? I feel like we had another one. Oh yes, and our sneaky scene of the Eight of supporting yourself, supporting the scene of you working, okay? I think I'm going to go with that for a moment, that metaphor for the stages. So supporting the melding of these two and acknowledging the rolling sea that we see behind the King of Cups. It's so similar, even though they're different suits. His sea and the Two of Pentacles seas are so similar. They've got that same kind of stripy illustration style. And they've both got a ship in the background. His is red and passionate, and the the Two of Wands has got the red and the yellow. The red and the yellow of enthusiasm and optimism. So he's adding a really optimistic element into this thing. So supporting this and not becoming a victim, okay? That's what you hope to do. And I think you pull it off, because there you go. Now you're up on the rocky outcrop. It's like you've stepped out of a funny castle-y building almost. And what you've learnt in that cave castle interior might be so incredible that it starts you off. So it's almost like you're up on one of these kind of outcrops now, and you've learnt something in there. Because yes, it's interesting. Look at the colour. It does have an element right in the corner of the same sort of colour. So it's like a sort of strange interior balcony that you're stepping out on. That's how I'm seeing it today. And you've been given a white rose, I want to say, something pure, a pure aim to go after. And they've packed your little knapsack, and they're sending you off. And one of the dogs, like a sort of little puppy of these generational wealth dogs, has got your back, and it's saying, yeah, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Go on, take a leap. Trust us. We've got your back. This is your new start. How amazing. I absolutely love that. Changing glasses again. See if anything else pops out. I do need those red glasses, I think. Just how unbelievably peaceful the Fool looks, and quite wise. Really quite wise, and his big red feather. And how the end of his staff, with all that he needs in his feather, are all almost in touch with the sun. So fueled by that sun energy. How amazing. That is really lovely. I'm going to cap it. Where are we at? 43. I'm getting slightly slower. I'm going to cap it with a card from... I wonder whether that would come out. I saw this yesterday, because this is for you guys, Fox people. It came out yesterday. It doesn't have an entirely positive point of view. It's reminding us that you're there. Let's see. 7 of challenges. So another 7. Where were our 7s? We've got the 8s. I felt like we had a 7. No, we've got 1, 9, no 7s. So something that it wants us to remind you. It might just be because I'm talking about foxes and this was on my mind. I hope it has more meaning than that. 7 of challenges. It's funny because I felt the fox must have been watching me when it popped out. Sneakiness, secret, strategy. Strategy, okay, let's take that. You need to use a strategy here. Using your wits to get what you want. A lapse of ethics. Well, let's hope that's not part of it. I doubt it. Using your wits to get what you want. The travellers having their supper and smored the fire are cosily tucked into their vardo for the night. They've come far into the deep forest, so they have no fear of intruders. It will be good to get a peaceful night's sleep. The scenario is exactly what the skulk of foxes loves best, the pleasure of stealing enhanced by the pleasure of making fools of unwary innocents. They step lightly through the clearing, slyly confident in their sneaky skills. These foxes of the enchanted forest, and the things they steal are not the things normal foxes would take, such as food or livestock. You never know what one of these foxes will want, whether they can actually use it or not. When these vulpine bandits appear in a reading, something is going on behind your back. Someone is trying to get away with something by cheating you, or outright theft. It may be an arena where you feel you're safe, so you've relaxed your vigilance. Or perhaps you're the one whose actions don't bear close scrutiny. Have you violated your own ethical code? So curious. I mean, there's no indication of that whatsoever coming from you. So is it just about strategy, or is it just a wink to you fox people Or is it about sneaking in to get what you want? Using your wits to get what you want. Secrets, strategy, strategy. It's a strategy. You need to employ some strategy here to get yourself free and balance these two. You need to be... Strategy is exactly what the Knight of Pentacles would come up with. He would make sure that there was a way of pulling this off. He would give you the structure. So maybe that's why it's here. Or maybe it's just a nod to you foxy types, because I did slightly call it in by wondering if it would turn up. Or maybe it has a meaning to you foxy types, like collecting odd things that you don't need. Maybe that's part of the ingredients of what's going on is putting together lots of different disparate elements to something. And these are Rachel Pollack's Shining Tribe cards, and I love them. And they're very dense and, oh, lovely. Place of Stones. I've not read this one before. That's gorgeous. Place of Stones. Let's see. So this is going to be Pentacles. Place of Stones. 9 of Stones, 10 of Stones. Gift of Trees, Speaker of Trees, Place of Rivers. They organise them in such a weird... Gift of Rivers, Speakers, Place of Birds. Place of Stones. So I'm just going to skip to the divinatory meaning. A safe environment, a place of wealth and security. Security that allows us to adapt to change. A place or a time in our lives where we truly can grasp that practical and spiritual matters are really the same. Dark and hard, ancient, impenetrable, she welcomes us with silence. I think it's talking about that goddess figure that's being made out of the stones. So, wealth and security, going back to that 10 of Pentacles, and a safe environment, this environment that you're trying to get to. So we can see you in a little cottage initially with your two parts, but you need to get up to quite an exalted height where you're kind of camouflaged in the mountains. Interesting. I wonder which places must be. What else do we have? Places, knowers, gifts. So speakers. So speakers must be kings. Gifts must be queens. Knowers must be knights. This must be a page, I think. In the Speaker of Birds, we describe the earth as the goddess's visible body. Prehistoric cultures of different lands have made this idea explicit by creating burial mounds and temples in the literal form of a female body, like a giant sculpture that you can enter, the same way you enter the goddess's creative womb when you enter a sacred cave. In the Gift of Stones, we see an actual temple. Here we see an expression of the concept in the form of a stone structure based on the carving known as Venus of Willendorf. She has the ample form characteristic of Stone Age figures, for above all, the great goddess is the mother of life and death. This double quality appears in the double lines of the stones. It's interesting, double lines like those double lines of the stage. I don't think that's relevant. A sacred cave. Creative womb, when you say sacred cave, it's a bit like those caves in the rocks that you're entering. So is that where you're trying to go? Are you trying to get into some sort of communion with the idea of a goddess, a sacred cave space? How amazing. Creative womb, a creative womb which is like a sacred cave. We see a green egg-shaped rock in the temple's first chamber, and then a golden goddess stone at the entrance to the second level. So that's that egg in the middle, and then the golden statue. Then a golden goddess stone at the entrance to the second level, the level of the heart. From there, the way is open to the head, the place of revelation. The abstract, maybe that's what the towers represent, revelation. So you've been in your heart, I feel, with these two offering each other their grail. And now you've got to get a revelation. Um, the abstract figures at the side suggest both the liveliness of prancing horses and the devotion of humans at prayer. Above the hill, we see 3 sets of stone pillars. They mark the sunrises at 4 points of the year, the solstices and the equinoxes. Many Stone Age works marked exactly such events in the sky, linking the goddess's body on earth to the heavens. For example, at Stonehenge in England, the first rays of dawn on the summer solstice pass through the stone pillars to strike the altar-like heelstone inside the circle. Similarly, on winter solstice in Ireland, the dawn light enters a stone chamber at the giant earth mound called Newgrange. This light comes in the doorways, moves slowly along the floor of the passageways, reaches the back wall and climbs up into the human height. Stays there for a brief time, then sinks down again and retreats out of the passage as the sun climbs higher in the sky. She's got something a bit wrong there, because I go to Stonehenge a lot. She said, the first rays of dawn sun on the summer solstice pass through the stone pillars to strike the altar-like heelstone inside the circle. The heelstone is actually outside, and the sun hits the heelstone and then casts a shadow that appears, if there weren't millions of people there every time, it appears to go in through the entrance and hit the back stone. But she's got the right idea here. Right. With the discovery of agriculture, the seasonal highlights become important markers of when to plant or harvest. With life so dependent on the crops, and the crops so dependent on the cycles of the sun, and we've got that sun in the Fool at the end, people sought ways to bring the solar events down into the physical earth. The temples and circles and mounds allowed the practical and the spiritual to join together. Similarly, the purpose of Shining Tribe Tarot and the work we do with it, whether in readings, meditation, storytelling, or in other forms of tarot use, is to gain a greater understanding of the sacred and to bring it into our daily lives. This is why the deck borrows so many images from prehistoric or tribal traditions, so that we can find our own paths in this web of ancient treasures. At the bottom, we see a deer with a human-like face. The particular image comes from a 5,000-year-old temple dedicated to Ninshasag, a Sumerian goddess of birth and rebirth. The flame antlers and the red stone of the temple recall the red ochre that's all over the world, symbolises the life-giving power of the earth, like the earth under the Knight of Wands, and actually like the earth underneath our victimised self in the Eight of Swords. It's actually very fertile. Ochre is an interesting example of the merger of spiritual and the practical. We see it everywhere as a symbol of blood, of life energy. Archaeologists find pots of ochre in graves or skeletons painted with ochre. On Malta, farmers sometimes use the ochre-painted stones from prehistoric ruins to fill in their own stone walls. At the same time, we learn from the Aboriginal people in Australia, who still use ochre in their sacred traditions, that the mineral possesses great healing properties. For instance, Aboriginal healers use ochre paste as a treatment for arthritis. The spiritual meaning enhances the medicinal power, and the medical the spiritual. So a safe environment that melds these two, spiritual and I wonder whether you can see the sun now starting to burst through the clouds. I'm going to just look like that. A safe environment that merges the spiritual and the actual, and a place of wealth and security that allows us to adapt to change. A place or a time in our lives when we can truly grasp the practical and spiritual matters are really the same. How wonderful. Yeah, we're talking about this transformative space that you're headed for. This is what you're looking for. A place where you can really honour that kind of idea of the goddess. Is it coming through? Hello, sun, at last. I want you to stay out today. A kind of really mythical place in the mountains that allows for that, like a cave that kind of gives her presence allows the sun, that yangy energy, to meet, the way it does at Stonehenge, to meet the kind of receptive energy of a kind of goddess. And then what comes out of that? I like it a lot. Right, last card, Fox, people and Cancers. Can we have one last comment? The Emperor. Wow, and he looks like Christ, doesn't he? These are from the Lua Tarot, which I got on Etsy, and I'm not sure she does them anymore, but maybe. He's amazing looking. His watery eyes. He reminds me of this portrait that a young portrait artist has just won. I think it's at the National Portrait Gallery. A young artist of 12 has done an artist of Benjamin Zephaniah, who's a poet that he's memorialising in this in this in this portrait, and he looks really like that. So this idea of, he has these very watery eyes that seem to be seeing beyond the world, and so I wonder whether there's something in that, the idea of of exalting the poetic. Is very unlike the traditional emperor, who doesn't appear to have any. He doesn't want to let through any emotion. We know he does have emotion, but he doesn't want to engage with it in the normal way. The Emperor, son of the morning, chief among the mighty, Aries. Leadership, authority, father figure, true vision, organisation, structure, system, order, logic, reason, stability, protection. So this is bringing us back a bit like the Fox card in the Enchanted Forest did, to the idea of kind of strategizing and making systems and organisation and logic to protect and stabilize these amazing insights. The Emperor is crowned with a laurel wreath against a backdrop of mountains, symbolizing stability and protection. So is that why you've been trying to get up to these mountains? Stability and protection. His world is one of influence, discipline and rules. An Egyptian Ankh connects him to the power of the life force and his role as the active masculine creator. On his collar is the Aries sign, ruler of his sign, reflecting ambition, direction and action. He looks towards the Empress, a symbol of him drawing from her wisdom to lead with love as well as logic and reason. The Emperor always has a clear goal in mind and is properly prepared before taking action. So it's like the sun coming through, hitting the heelstone, sending its shadow to go to the kind of into the womb-like structure of Stonehenge, like the idea of the Emperor imposing discipline in order to serve and look towards the Empress. It's just, I think that the cards are really pulling us back to the idea of a cooperation between two parts, between the part of you that can create structure and stability that allows a flourishing of this kind of mystical goddess, deep wisdom. And so we've got that in the Knight of Pentacles, but maybe these two cups that are being offered in your inner world, maybe that's something to do with it as well. Like, let's not forget that we need to kind of have practical stability and structure and strategy in order to create this space where this flourishing of these ideas and your kind of more mythic wisdom that you want to bring to the world can flourish. I wonder what you're doing. So beautiful. Thank you. On this, probably, I think I have to admit, last morning for a little while in Tuscany, Fox and Cancer people. I'm going to see if that comes into... Can you see the full sun? Oh, so beautiful. That's it. That's what I have this morning. Thank you so much. It's a really tender message, and I love how it ends on the goddess. That really kind of puts me in mind of lots of really fertile ideas. So the Emperor being in service of the Empress, or looking to her for direction, and our creative impulses sort of working back to that idea of the goddess, Empress, I love those ideas. Have a lovely day and see you again. Bye.